Welcome to the Gottesdienst crowd, where we foster confessional integrity, liturgical preservation, and preaching that doesn't stink. We believe that the historic liturgy of the divine service is more than mere cobwebs of antiquity, but it is a true treasure of the Church, to be dusted off and brought down from her attic to be enjoyed. So let's get dusting.
Welcome back to the Gottesdienst crowd. This is Jason Braaten. Today we have back with us Dave Petersen. Welcome back, Dave.
Thank you.
We are looking at the gospel reading for the first Sunday after Epiphany. It comes from Luke chapter 2, verses 41 to 52. And I'll read that in the New King James. Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem according to the custom of the feast. When they had finished the days, as they returned, the boy Jesus lingered behind in Jerusalem. And Joseph and his mother did not know it. But supposing him to have been in the company, they went a day's journey and sought him among their relatives and acquaintances. So when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem seeking him. Now so it was that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. So when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Look, your father and I have sought you anxiously." And he said to them, "Why did you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my father's business?" But they did not understand the statement which he spoke to them. Then he went down with them and came to Nazareth, and was subject to them. But his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and men. All right, in terms of the text, anything that sort of pops out that we should take note of? I'm always sort of amazed at he is listening to their teachers and he's asking them questions, and then it says that they're astonished at his understanding and his answers. So is this like a catechetical? He asks a question, they answer, and then they ask further?
It seems to be, yeah. Unless his questions themselves are just answers,
Gotcha.
And kind of a
He's one of those guys.
Well, I mean, no.
At the end of a presentation.
No, he's not one of those guys.
Okay, I didn't think
Which, by the way, would be one of us. But no, I bet more that he's asking very insightful questions that demonstrate that he understands the material, and I believe he's absolutely sincerely seeking information from them. He's not. And, you do have that. I mean, that's a joy to teach when you have a student that's actually deeply engaged in the material and honestly, seeking more, especially when you're able to give it. Of course, sometimes you're not, but...
I'm also intrigued by verses 51 and 52.
Yes.
So what is the relationship between increasing in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men and subjecting yourself?
Right. Well, I think and I love that. That's that hupotasso word again.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not the submit word. I did a men's retreat in Hillsdale this fall, and at the end of it, somebody says, because we're talking about learning from your mistakes in part. Mm-hmm. And this guy says, Jesus didn't make any mistakes. How does he learn anything? And how does he grow? And I could not answer it. And and then I was like, I don't know, really. Watching other people's mistakes, I think I said, or something. And then he came up afterwards. It was right at the end, and he said, he asked some professor that, and I don't know who it was, and the guy said, by suffering. And I was like, of course, that's right. And this is very much the Greek understanding that wisdom comes by suffering. And that's the whole point of the tragedies. that you could learn, you could suffer vicariously and gain wisdom. And so I think here, right, that he actually subordinates himself to his father and mother, imperfect though they are, and he endures that, and that brings a kind of suffering, and with it brings wisdom. And that doesn't stop. According to his humiliation, he is changing, growing, learning, even right up to the cross. Yeah. And, think about, I mean, that's really a fascinating, what does Jesus learn on the cross? He learns to trust in his Father. More deeply, right? Yeah. He learns his Father's good.
So all of this is about his active and passive obedience.
Yeah.
And that is wisdom.
Yes.
That is what increases wisdom and stature.
Right. Yeah.
Active and passive obedience.
It's really astounding to consider. And I know we've said this many times, but I think that we tend more towards Nestorianism than Arianism. That is to say that I think in our context within American Christianity, we are more prone to denying the human nature of Christ than we are the divine nature.
Yeah.
We shouldn't deny either one, but obviously. But we don't think about this a lot or contemplate this a lot. And I mean, Epiphany's, we're still in the shadow of Christmas. Yeah. What does it mean that God has become a man?
Yeah.
And the fullness
what is it about active and passive obedience that is the great instructor by submitting yourself or subordinating yourself?
Well, it's an exercise in self-control, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually putting things into the right order. Right? Instead of, I love this immoderate.
So when you put yourself in the right order, that orders the mind, the will, that all of that cause and effect relationship kind of falls into proper place.
Well, in yourself, in Christ it certainly does, but then also within the external structures, I think, it's, so he's placing himself into a disordered family, and yet his orderliness and his subordination and his willingness to carry out these duties he's not only learning, but they're learning, and he's actually enabling them to carry out their duties better.
Yeah. So I think this raises a question for me. Does Jesus have a self-understanding at this point? Well, obviously does.
He does.
He's got to be about my Father's business.
Yeah.
So he already knows, right? He knows who he is and kind of what his mission is. And yet when he's with the teachers, he's asking them questions. He's subordinating himself there too.
Yes. Oh, completely.
Yeah.
I think he's learning who he is and what his mission is. I mean, he knows, of course, right? But at the same time, I can just imagine him asking a lot of questions. This is beyond speculation almost.
Sure.
I can just ask, he's probably asking about Abraham sacrificing Isaac. He's asking about the suffering servant. He's asking about what's going to happen to me, and what am I supposed to be doing, and how are we carrying this out? And he's got to be looking at those sacrifices and seeing his own fate. And so, I think these are the questions I expect. He's asking about the rituals of the temple and how these are messianic and what this is showing of the coming atonement. He's asking about the sacrifice of Isaac. He's asking about, the suffering servant. I mean, this is his Father's business, and it's all, of course, interconnected. I mean, we don't know the exact questions. That's quite obvious, but we should recognize that he is. I mean, that's what the Bible's about. That's what these teachers are supposed to be teaching. He's helping them teach that by the questions that he asks and the answers he gives. And it's just a mystery beyond comprehension that he has things to learn about it, but he does, according to his humiliation.
So what things maybe at the feast would he be inquiring about?
That's a good question. I don't...
I'm just wondering, are there specifics
in the Passover
that he would be inquiring about?
I mean, he might be, he could be asking questions about the Passover lamb, but he could also be asking questions about the angel of death that passes over. And he could be asking about the meal itself, the bitter herbs and the things that are going on there. He could be being instructed.
The sun is.
He could be being instructed in this very moment about the Lord's Supper. Or this could be informative, right? I mean, he does institute, right? In another 20 years, the Lord's Supper in this same context. And, what is the meaning of the meal and eating together on the night before we flee Egypt? And how does, God use this? And I could see all of that being, I like that. That's a good point.
Do you think it's the same questions he's asking Moses and Elijah on the Mount Transfiguration?
Does it say he's asking questions of Moses and Elijah?
Well, they're talking about his Exodus.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if
it's a good question.
The same like a similar conversation. Well, I talked to when I was 12. I talked to these guys in the temple. What do you guys?
They said, you said, yeah. So maybe I'm wrong on this. In my mind, I've always thought, the Transfiguration is his divine nature showing through, and it always has felt to me as though in that context he's not denying himself asking Moses questions. But I don't think that's exegetically or dogmatically required. He has not yet.
But I see your point. Like, I just was wondering. Yeah. It just kind of popped into my mind. Every once in a while that happens, and I go down a road or a rabbit trail. I'm like, that's dumb. Don't do that. But I was curious what your thoughts were.
Yeah, it is this whole thing of the 12-year-old Jesus is really a fascinating event, Yeah. And I agree with you.
This is why I don't like skipping it. I don't like.
Right. I agree. I agree.
I don't. It's hard to decide, if you don't celebrate the baptism of our Lord on the actual day, it can be difficult to decide which one. But I just don't like missing this text.
Yeah. I do love the baptism of our Lord also.
Yeah.
But, right, we're able to usually pull that off on the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
But not every year. Depends what day of the week it
tend
falls.
To go back and forth.
So, I love this text. I don't want to skip it either. And I do think that whole idea, it's just, all of it, right? There's so much of the incarnation here. The fact that he doesn't know everything, according to his humiliation. So he has questions to ask, that he subordinates himself to the teachers, then to his mother and father, that he grows. All of that. And then at the same time, though, showing his divine nature is kind of leaking out, right? In that he has this, and though I don't know that it's really his divine nature as it is his moral purity, that he has such insight and is so attentive to the word and, is able to rebuke his mother. Yeah. And I don't think it requires any, exercise of his divinity to recognize that she's the one, misbehaving.
Yeah. So he's growing in wisdom, stature. That seems to indicate he's growing in, not necessarily physical stature, but stature in other men's minds.
Right. But I think they go
he has increased authority.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that relationship between. When you subordinate yourself, you put yourself under authority, and that increases authority.
Oh, that's good.
And that's contrary to, I think, the modern way of thinking.
Well, certainly to the flesh.
And the flesh and what you kind of hear today, like if someone's there, a man's man or, their own person, they don't submit or subordinate themselves to anything.
Right.
And the biblical teaching on this is the opposite, is that your authority increases precisely by putting yourself under somebody else's authority.
Right. Well, I think it was out of place, and it's hard to imagine the Greeks too. They were, very concerned about social status and not looking inferior in any way. I mean, Jesus washing the disciples' feet shocks the disciples. This is, but there is this reality though that we do know the kind of people that we like. And those are the people that, their gentleness shows forth. And they endear themselves to us because, they're reliable, they're trustworthy, they're easy to work with, those things really do matter. And I was thinking about this just recently. I was with a guy and he was telling me, he's a confessional Lutheran guy. He was telling me that he deliberately doesn't use sort of ceremonies, particular ceremonies, whatever, doesn't make the sign of the cross because, good for you, man. I don't care. But he said he doesn't do it on purpose because he's upholding the freedom of ceremonies. And I just thought, okay, that's pretty dumb. We're not living in a culture or a society that is, teaching some kind of legalism about ceremonies. And, why wouldn't you just conform? If you're about the freedom of ceremonies, why don't you just subject yourself to the community standard and just go, oh, this is the way we do it here. And I don't need to, maybe it just struck me as a kind of rebellion and a kind of autonomy, that was masked in this, I'm defending the freedom to write in cursive. I didn't know it was under attack, it was, this like, I don't know if that makes sense, but there is a kind of individualism that is actually turns out to be distasteful. And
oh, for sure.
I think it has to do with, again, like if you will subject yourself to tradition, if you will, instead of showing how I have to demonstrate that I am, equal to Augustine, in my creativity and genius. And there's just so much of that, even in the naming of children. I'm just going to ban. No, you're not allowed to name. I'm not going to baptize any more children who, unless they have the same name as at least one other person in the congregation. No new names. It'd be a good rule, actually. Wasn't there a rule like this is this in Germany? Where you had to, the government had to approve the kid's name?
Well, I know there are certain names you can't use.
Yeah, it has to be like authorized. The government has to authorize the kid's name, I think. I always thought that was ridiculous. I'm starting to maybe think they're onto something. Yeah. Anyway.
We've always just used family names.
Well, there you go.
So.
If you go back far enough, they're all family names.
Right. Thanks.
All right. So let's jump into Luther this week.
So how does he handle this? Well,
he's got a lot against the Pope again.
Something on law gospel, I'm sure.
The monasteries. Yeah. No, it's quite a good sermon, I think. This is in volume 76, the new translation of the House or the Church Apostles. And he gets to it. It takes him a long time. He has really kind of three ideas, I think, throughout this sermon. The first is really crosses. And he really just kind of oozes sympathy for Mary, though he blames Mary. So I think this is interesting. So Mary has to suffer this horrible reality of having lost her son, and not just any son, but the Messiah, right? And how is God ever going to forgive her for her failure in this regard? And how could she be so stupid? I mean, this is her own internal dialogue kind of thing. And so he talks a lot about that and how God, is actually doing this to humble her and to teach her where to look. So that's a pretty major theme, and especially in the first part of the sermon. And then he really does kind of jump to I think the more profound point, and that is ultimately he says this is a text about how and where we should seek and find Christ. And, in the temple, in the things that God has instituted where he's promised to be, that's the point. He has this great line on page 201. He says, there's no fault in Christ in that he was, in the temple. He says, he is not and never will be lost and can always be found. And I thought that was very well said. And then, of course, it's all about, we're only going to find our comfort in the Word and in the sacraments. He really goes after this. Mary and Joseph are wrong when they go seeking Jesus among their friends and acquaintances. And he allegorizes that for us in a way and says that, we're always trying to find, we're trying to find Jesus in the world, in some way, in some worldly thing, those things that are our friends and our acquaintances, whether that's, earthly success or pleasure or whatever it would be. And we have to learn again and again that Christ is only found in word. And this is where he promises to be, this is where he delivers, and this is what we need. And then, the kind of third thing there is sort of a corollary of that. And that is that God does all of this in mercy to actually kind of drive us to himself. And, that we would be humbled, because when we seek and find comfort in other places, it can destroy our faith. Mm-hmm. And so he
hides himself in order that we will look.
Yep. That's right. And then, lots there about, how bad the Roman Church was because they made up all that stuff. But, the other thing was he does have a lot of stuff. It's interesting to hear him talk about Mary. He does claim that Jesus is Mary's only son. So he does kind of defend by default, the perpetual virginity there. Mm-hmm. But he also, defends her weakness and her failures, and has this, that she's an example in this. So he does it to her, to humble her for her own good, because she's been given, this most glorious of positions in the history of humanity, and that's a temptation to vanity. So he makes her life really hard. And, and then about Simeon, foretelling that. But then also, she needs to do this to be an example for us, right? And he's got a lot about how these saints don't need to be given false works and praise, because they're human beings, and God blesses them through the word, same as he does by us.
Yeah. So thinking about our discussion of the text earlier, if it's all pressing towards this subordination and growing in wisdom and stature in favor with God and with men, how have Mary and Joseph not subordinated themselves?
Yeah. Well, they're taking him for granted, right? They're not subordinating themselves to the order, but they're exercising authority for their own pleasure. I mean, they neglected, a 12-year-old boy, and just assumed he would be where he's supposed to be, and did not show due diligence, right? So that's their failure. It's a failure, I would say, a failure to inspect. So this is why the military has inspections. Mm-hmm. And knowing that the inspection is coming is of great value, even though the subordinates don't like it, but because it just kind of forces them to do their job, and then they receive kind of praise and encouragement for it. But they also can receive correction at that point. And Jesus was just so good that I imagine he was easy to neglect, and they just did not carry out their duties. And I think this is a kind of I think there's lots of ways we can apply this to our own lives. But how
do fathers and mothers do this now?
Well, I think this is quizzing your children on the catechism, and this is making sure that they actually got up when the alarm went off, and making sure their beds are made, making sure that they're doing their homework, and we can when they're good at it, we can just sort of start to let those things slide. And that's a danger. We might get away with it, but we might not. And even if we get away with it in the sense that we don't check if the kid made the bed, and the kid made the bed anyway, if we would have checked, it would have been an opportunity to praise him.
Praise. So it's a neglect on both sides.
Yes.
We don't offer praise, nor do we
offer correction and encouragement. And so,
it's a misuse also of the gift of speech.
Right. Yeah. So, even though your children know the 10 Commandments, having them recite them and then praise them for it is good. Mm-hmm. It helps. It's good for them as an exercise because they're seeding it deeper in their memory and they're speaking what is true, and that's good. But it also, gives them a chance to demonstrate and receive your praise. So, but we're weak, right? So. Yeah, because it's terrible what they do, and then of course, the terrible example, negative of them blaming him. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's not that we're not sympathetic towards Mary. I'm sure it was very painful for her, but there is a kind of sense in which the pain is worse when it's your fault, right? Mm-hmm. A person who, it is easier typically psychologically to sort of take tragedies that are arbitrary as opposed to things that we brought upon ourselves or especially upon our loved ones. Yeah. So, she lashes out there in anger in a way that's most inappropriate. And, who hasn't done that? The kind of defensiveness that we're just this so quick to us is sad.
Why did you treat this? Why have you done this to us?
Yeah. Why'd you do this to us? He didn't do this to them. They did this to themselves. And why don't they know where and then also, by the way, it was unnecessary that they did it because they should have known where he was. I mean, not only should have they known where he was because they had done the inspection, they also should have known where he was because of theology and remembered that he's not their son, he's God's son. Mm. And so, there's a kind of double rebuke there. You didn't do your job. And then also, you don't know who I am.
Yeah. The word there, anxiously, I think this word is related to Odysseus's name.
Where are you? What verse?
Verse 48, because he's Odysseus, the son of pain. And this is Odino from Odinao, to be pain, distressed.
Interesting. Yeah. There is a lot of fun vocab in this, actually. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that was Odysseus. But I see it, yeah.
Yeah. And so you have all of his pains or his labors throughout the Odyssey. But, I'm just wondering, because the interesting thing is, in the Odyssey, at least in the very beginning, everyone blames the gods for the pains that they give them. But then Zeus says, these men don't help themselves. They add to it.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe I'm just making too much of the word. And since I'm reading the Odyssey right now, I'm trying to correlate things, but I wonder if there's something going on there with this word.
Yeah, I don't know.
It in the sense that it demonstrates that it's
a
self-inflicted. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right. Yeah, I get it. Right, that Odysseus, causes his own problems in many ways, and Well,
I mean, and he does.
Right?
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, if he just remained a nobody, but he couldn't help himself.
Right.
He had to tell Polyphemus his name.
He's not as bad as Achilles, but it's a different kind of.
Well, because Odysseus learns.
Yeah.
And then he hides in the rest of it.
Right.
But, he comes in disguise. But that's the moment when he has to get his glory over Polyphemus, and then Polyphemus calls on Poseidon.
Right.
So I guess I'm just wondering if this is saying this is self-inflicted.
Maybe. I'm not familiar with the word. I mean, it just says, be distressed, be in pain, be in torment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, in the context, I mean, she's saying, though, why did your father and I, I guess it doesn't say you did this there, does it? Well,
it says,
son,
why have you done this?
And then behold, right, your father and I, right,
have sought
you in distress, or sought you, right. So she is blaming, yeah, there is some fun vocab. You have the word synod in here somewhere. I can't remember where it was.
The acquaintances? No.
Was that it? No, the acquaintances were the suno, or the relatives, or, there it is. There it is in verse 44, right? That they were on the way. Those who had traveled together with them. So you've got that. Kind of fun. There was some other stuff. I'm trying to remember where I just read a sermon within the last recent about this word agenita. It came to pass. What was that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Is there? It was for Christmas, and it was this big thing about it came to pass, and that means it happened in the real world. I don't know what that sermon was. Anyway,
we discussed it. It was. Didn't we talk about that at some point? And it happened? I thought we talked about that.
Maybe we did. I thought
it was coming up. Isn't it one of the, and it came to pass, or maybe it was, Christmas Eve.
I thought it was Christmas Eve, but I can't remember what the, was that a Luther sermon then? What was that?
No, I think we just got off. Discussing and it happened.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
And we were just kind of riffing off of doing a sermon on that. Well,
there you go. Well, here it is again. And whenever it happened, that he was 12 years old. So the other thing, of course, I do think that there's an opportunity. So word and sacrament are very obvious. I mean, like that we have to find Jesus where he is. And I think that's good. That's very helpful. The vocation thing, could certainly come out here with, I've been saying lately, I think this is true, right? That we always talk about the office of the ministry doesn't exist apart from its function. Mm-hmm. So we don't really believe in an ontological office of the ministry. It has to actually be carried out. It doesn't exist for its own sake. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? So, and that's the problem, by the way, with people carrying out the functions who aren't in the office. But we could apply this reality of there is no office apart from the function also to mother and father. Mm. And I think we should, because we live in a perverted age where, people who just simply impregnate a woman act like their talk about like their fathers.
Yeah.
And we need to uphold repeatedly the men who do the real work. And, adopted fathers are real fathers. Men that impregnate women are not fathers, because there is no office apart from the function. Mm. And so the men that are doing the work should be praised, and we should thank God for them, and we should recognize that's real, and God blesses it. And we should condemn those who aren't, and who refuse, and not give them any honor. I always feel so bad. I mean, I get it. I mean, I sort of get it. I haven't lived it personally, but I feel so bad for the few boys that I know whose biological fathers are not fulfilling the functions, and how they're so desperate for those men to be their dads. And I just want to tell them, let it go. You have a dad, the guy that lives with you and who does these things. But anyway, so that here, you've got a kind of failure for her to do her duties. I don't mean she's not his mother, and that might be the other side of it. There's no office apart from the function, but also there is no requirement, in a sense, to be perfect in the carrying out of these functions. Our Lord subordinates himself to his mother after she fails, and he doesn't say, "Okay, now I'm not going to obey you anymore," but he actually is still part of it, and he honors it. And our Heavenly Father doesn't withdraw that office from her. She is the mother of God still, the mother of our Lord. Mm-hmm. And she gets another chance, and she gets to keep going.
Yeah. So what direction do you think you're going to want to go on this? Like what are the things that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would like to talk about this, about the Christology here of Christ growing, because I think
what is that Christology?
Well, that the depths kind of his humiliation, that he actually, as a man, denies himself to the degree that he has to learn things, and that he learns it, in the normal way, that he's obedient to this. And I think that's just fascinating, that he's asking questions, that he's learning, that even after this, that he, again, right, with it from his mother and his father and changing over time. I love this idea of him learning by suffering, and even learning on the cross, I think that's the kind of Christology of it, of what it takes to have a Savior who is actually a man, and who actually endures and suffers the things we suffer, though in his active obedience, right, not breaking the law in any way. That he does all the things that we do. He goes to school, but does not commit any sins, right?
Yeah.
And he does all of these things, so that's his active obedience. And then at the same time, he takes on these punishments, and in this way is also being taught, and of course atoning. Both of these are atoning for us.
But so also teaching, because he's teaching both, Joseph, right, and Mary.
Yeah, he's an example.
By pain, by suffering.
Pain. Yeah. And he's showing us, what is he showing us? He's showing us that the Father is good, or teaching us, right, is that the Father is good, and that you got to take that Passover lamb you raised in your own house and slit its throat and praise God. And then, I just, there's so much. But I don't know how I don't know how good of a
like there is an overarching theme there.
What is it?
Well, I would put it in this way, that increasing in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men means subordinate yourself to the pain of learning. And then you have all of these examples of this. You could talk about that Christology. And then, then maybe you could ask the question, so what pain are you avoiding?
Yeah. I like it.
And what do you need to attend to that you're not because of the pain of it? Right.
And you could go on both. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Because I was trying to figure out how to sort of make it applicable. And I think that's exactly right, that this whole idea of learning is such a fascinating thing. But both the teachers are sinners, and so are the students. So it fails at both ends. So, and both of them are, I think, primarily what, in our context, what we're avoiding is boredom, right? That the students want to be entertained. They don't want to do the actual work, because learning is work, and it requires effort, and there's a certain pain of the boredom that you have to put through. But the teachers, I mean, it's the same thing as a teacher. You have to do the hard work of making them do the work, which is boring, and telling them the same things, which, it's much more fun as the teacher to be up there telling jokes. They like it better. You like it better.
I think also we get tired of teaching the same things.
Right.
And we want, but it's not always just jokes. Sometimes it's on niche things.
Yes. I was just theology. Yeah.
Such that we kind of pass over the fundamental things.
And the things that are most appropriate, and that they need, and they would rather we do that too, because they don't want to do the work. So instead of just drilling them on the 10 Commandments, we go off on, the ethics of IVF, with fifth graders, and bring up, the latest Supreme Court cases and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, they never actually learn the commandments. And I think that's exactly right. It hides itself in many ways, but there is this kind of avoidance of the actual work of learning, the pain, as you put it, of learning.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem. I think a lot of what goes on, what passes, and I've been guilty of this, so I'm But I think a lot of what goes on as kind of youth catechesis is pastors lecturing about things they enjoy talking about while the kids passively sit there and take it. And at the end of the thing, we confirm the kid and act like we did a good job. But, if you ask that kid 3 months later to recite the catechism, he can't recite it. And we got to do the hard work. And I think so.
There's got to be both of those things. I mean, in some cases,
a little bit of, but it's got to be mostly one and not much of the other. It depends how old the children are. We have pretty young children that we're
okay. So for sure, but the younger, yes.
The younger they are, the more drilling they need, the more repetition, the more rote. Yeah. But I think it also, in families, I think it happens also, because it's the same thing with being a father, right? Yeah. We really don't want to do we don't want to listen to our own children recite. I mean, we don't want to do these things. We want to just do our own thing, or we just want to be entertained. And so to do that kind of work of inspections and to give the praise that they deserve and that they need to grow and to learn, but also to make these corrections, even though a lot of times it'd just be easier to do it most of the time, maybe. I could just make this bed faster than it would be to make him come back up here and do it. Or, and I think that's a failure, again, that they take advantage of and that we let them because of our own weakness.
Yeah, so what is the wisdom? How often inspections happen? Is there?
Ooh, good one. It's got to be daily.
Well, for some things, but what about for other things?
Yeah.
So, for example, I want my children to learn self-discipline. So in some ways you have to allow sometimes that pain to happen, but there has to be an inspection to figure that out. Like, so there are times where it's like, I'm not going to get them up because they have to feel the pain of now they're behind and they still have to get this amount done.
Yeah, but okay.
Does that make?
Yeah, it does. But I think that's exactly right. But you have to be still. You have to know that they're not getting up. I mean, so that the inspection might uncover this, and you let it go, so that they feel the pain. You're not just I'll just believe it'll happen, right? You're not.
No. Yeah, no. And, so that's part of the inspection.
I think so.
So that's a daily thing then.
But you're right.
So should we call it not family devotions, but family inspections?
I like it. It's funny for even I hated inspections so much. I never understood the value of them. So I'm ashamed of myself.
But I remember as a kid, my dad or my grandfather inspecting my work and hopeful that the praise would come.
Oh yes, I did.
Right.
Yes.
So there has in some ways it was good. Inspections were good if you knew that the whoever it was would actually praise that which is good.
Oh, well, I mean, a test, an exam is an inspection. And when you feel good, I mean, they're eager to show what they learned.
I know, but if you were in the military and they never praised that which was...
Yeah, that may be part of the problem.
But then again, you get these lines from the Bible that's like, we have only done... what you've told us to do.
But I like this idea of thinking about it in these terms, and I like your idea of what is the
overarching theme.
Well, or the occurrence, like how often do these things happen?
Oh yeah,
and I think it does depend on what the event is. I mean, if you're going to your sister's wedding and you let your son pack his own clothes, you might look that over.
Well, I guess that raises questions like, are we treating the divine service as an inspection?
Well,
an opportunity for praise.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Of us. Like that God is praising us.
Yeah.
In the gospel. We've confessed our sins, right? We've taken stock. We've let his word inspect us and made us circumspect of ourselves.
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like, so, yeah, it has to be a daily thing.
Yeah, it really does. But I like the idea of inspecting your children before bringing them to church. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Well, I mean, I think that's also, but again,
how are we?
How are we modeling that, right? Because if we're looking at what the text is, Jesus subordinates himself.
Yep.
How are we subordinating ourselves, and that then authority, because of our subordination, grows larger and demonstrates wisdom and our stature with God and men because of does that make sense?
Yep. That's great. I'm just thinking about this, but I wonder if some of our subordination is, actually demonstrated in the preparation that we've made. Again, like a child, right? So we did our homework, we did our work, we wrote a sermon, or if you're the pastor, or, if you're just coming to church, but you know what I mean? If you're a layman, it could be, I actually read the Bible, I read the lectionary before I came here. I prepared, and I'm ready to actively engage and listen to this sermon and see how the preacher treats it.
Yeah.
And it might be, I knew what the hymn of the day was, and we sang it last night. And so I've done, and I mean, you don't get kudos, maybe from your fellow parishioners, but there is this sense of satisfaction in it. There could be, I think, appropriately, with due humility, but the satisfaction that, okay, this week I did my job. I don't every week, but I did come prepared, not perfectly, but I did prepare. And I can handle the task of being in church this week because I did my homework. And, that could be, you could also then, I think, maybe, in the act itself, you could be asking yourself some of these questions or paying attention to your children, or even, and one another, you could praise your fellow parishioners as well for, being, good job with your kids in the pew this week. I know that's not easy. And boy, they look beautiful, and they're well dressed, and their hair is combed. And I know that didn't happen by accident. And right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we kind of do some of that, I think, but maybe we could be a little more deliberate in it.
Yeah.
And maybe the other thing, of course, that goes along with this a little bit is learning how to take compliments. It can feel a little awkward, if somebody says, "Hey man, you got up and brushed your teeth this morning. Good job." but maybe we need to, take this into consideration and recognize the efforts. It's a lot of effort bringing kids to church.
I know. And
your wife does
Lauren,
it all.
I know.
I know. I never had to do it myself.
It's my, because I'm at work already.
I know.
Periodically, and by periodically, almost never, I will stop in before to see how everyone's doing. And I'm always like, I don't know how you do this. It's amazing.
It is. I'll tell you, I think back on Jackie was, I was going to say she's a workhorse, but that seems kind of derogatory. I can't believe how hard still she works. And man, I just did not help her very much. I look at the young men in our congregation, and they really they do a lot more than I ever did. And I'm not proud of that, but I'm proud of them, and I'm happy for what they're doing. But I can't believe the things that she did, and by herself almost. I wish she's still she's a hard worker. And man, getting those kids ready for church by yourself every week. And then, and then me coming home and saying, I'm tired because I worked this morning.
I know.
It's terrible. But good thing she doesn't listen to these. No.
Yeah, that's true.
The women really, it is crazy how hard it is to be a mother and the burdens that are on them. Yeah. So.
All right. So, So inspection.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. That could be fun. That's Mary and Joseph's failure, right? In an inspection thing, and that gives us sort of, and you've got these teachers kind of engaging in inspection in the temple, and Christ, performing obviously very well under that, and I think that could be really helpful. And I think
what's the relationship between being circumspect and being inspected? Well,
circumspect is more. I mean, as you mature, there's going to be more of this. It's going to be more necessary, right? I mean, your mother isn't coming and checking to make sure, right, that you're putting on clean underwear. So there does come a point where,
I know, but it is one of those things where you are aware of the traditions around us.
Yeah.
And you are placing yourself under those things. Am I doing what is orderly here? Or am I doing my own thing?
Right. Am I in service and fitting in the right? Am I within the hierarchy and supportive of those above me and those below me and my peers?
Yeah.
And am I actually right? Or am I drawing attention to myself? We had a great moment.
It's like this is all about finding your place.
It really. So I actually did. This happened just this morning. So we had divine service this morning in the chapel, about 30 people there. And the chapel is such that they're kneeling at the communion rail before for the words of institution and because there's no other place to kneel. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so when it comes to the distribution, the communion rail's full and the organist needs to kind of step up there and there's no room for her. And so one of the men that was there, just very quietly, I'm kind of watching this, but I can't do anything about it. He just kind of feels this and just so gently slips out of the way into the pew, slides this kneeling pad over for the organist. And then she kneels and I commune her and then she stands up and then she can play the hymn and then he slips back in there. And it was an amazing thing to me because it was so gentle and so quietly done. Didn't make a scene, didn't make a big fuss about it, just aware of what was going on around him, very reverent throughout it. And I actually complimented him for this afterwards because he does this sort of thing a lot. He has a kind of awareness liturgically and a sense that he leads without standing in the front and without drawing attention to himself. And it's an astounding quality, I think.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things, I think, really that in terms of fitting into the pattern, right? And I think it would be about not drawing attention to yourself and actually having the things that you do be helpful to other people.
Yeah.
So you're not engaging. You don't decide during the creed that you're going to go out into the middle aisle and prostrate yourself. Instead of genuflecting. Yeah, that's not helpful. Right? Kind of exaggerated shows of piety that get in the way, we want to avoid, right? But also, standing there folding your arm, crossing your arms and, staring at the ceiling at that moment would be not helpful either.
Yeah. What I'm doing now. No.
You didn't like that long story?
No, it was great. I just was trying to crack a joke.
Yeah, so I like what you're saying. How do we actually fit within the order in a way that doesn't draw attention to ourselves and actually serves the people around us, is helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is what Jesus is doing, right? He knows his place.
Yeah.
Because he's subordinated himself under his Father's orders.
And he loves his neighbor as himself.
Yes. Yeah.
He's pretty good, that Jesus.
Well, I know, but this could that whole bit that Luther is talking about and knowing where Jesus is.
Yeah.
Right, that he has his place. Like when things are in order, you can find it.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Like, so when we put things in the place that they're supposed to be, including ourselves, that's when you can actually find stuff.
Yes. No, that's very good. Yeah. Well, and back to learning, right? Having an ordered mind. a disciplined mind that, there's a lot of applications here.
Yeah. And I'm in Melanchthon's textbook. That's his whole point in learning logic, is it orders our thinking.
Nice.
So that we can understand and teach and confess. Those are his three things: understand, teach, and confess.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and you've got that hupotasso word right in here. So
right, I know.
You got the word order. That's very good.
That could be a great sermon.
It could. I agree. It's and I think very needed.
Yeah. But I think I would want to have some of that inspection, like, so in terms of, okay, how do we ensure that these things are happening?
Yeah.
I mean, divine service is part of that, right? That's our weekly inspection. But
go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The other thing would be, this is a great thing. We should be noticing who's not present. That's part of the inspection. Hey, where were you?
Yeah.
And do you have a valid reason that you weren't here? Or was it,
we missed you.
Yeah.
Like, you have a place here.
Right. And because
it was empty, and that wasn't normal or right.
Right.
That something was out of order.
I mean, that's the first inspection. That's the first inspection. Did you show up?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was so obvious. We didn't even, but I think that's we really ought to start. Mm-hmm. And maybe, we need to start offering praise for that. Hey, you showed up.
Yeah.
That's not insignificant. In fact, I mean, it's the foundational thing. You came to the right place. Even Mary and Joseph maybe get a little credit.
Yeah,
they finally showed up. They did get there, and and thanks be to God, when they got there, He was there, and He was always there, and He's always going to be there. And I mean, there's something there too.
Yeah, because order, when things are in their right order, not only can they be found, but they can be counted on.
Yeah, and they're ready for use.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, there you go. That worked out pretty good.
So fun.
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's always fun. It is always fun talking about the Bible.
It really is.
I know.
Yeah.
It sounds so kind of silly to say it, because of course it is, but I don't know why I'm surprised by it. I always am, though. That's part of joy. Joy. There's a sense of joy that is surprise, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Surprised by joy.
It takes us by surprise.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.